is Women for Gun Rights with your host, Amanda Suffecool, part of the DC Project.
Okay, folks, welcome to Women for Gun Rights. And today I have Tracy Becker as our guest. And Tracy's out of Texas. Not that you'll be able to tell any at all between her jewelry and her accent, but we'll not talk about that stuff just at all. So Tracy is a firearms instructor, trainer, RSO, and I have to say that the first time I met her, she was RSOing and training at the A Girl and a Gun conference. And then since then, we have been involved in a wide variety of things in training and different things all over the country. So Tracy, thanks and welcome to Women for Gun Rights.
Thanks for having me on, Amanda.
Oh, no problem at all. No problem at all. So because on this show, we want so much to introduce our audience to different women who are doing amazing things all over the country and all over within the Second Amendment world. And your Second Amendment world is training. And it is so in-depth, that training, that we want to start and talk about your journey, because there's so many people who want to be firearms instructors. And frankly, they want to be of the caliber that you are. So Tracy, start by telling us, how did you get started with guns? And then how did you get started as a trainer?
Texas passed the concealed carry law many years ago after a very sad event happened at a shooting in Luby's in Waco. And so one day I looked at my husband and I said, I want to get my carry permit. And he said, okay, I think let's go do that. So for Christmas one year, many years ago, we bought a license to carry class. That was when it was still concealed carry in Texas. And my grandfather handed me a gun and said, this is the gun, here's a gun. And I went to my father and my dad went, no, you're not going to shoot that gun. Here's a 1911, a 9mm 1911. This is, how you grip it. This is how you line your sights up. Go. And I shot almost a perfect score, being a relative newcomer to handguns.
Okay.
And I'm like, well, this is pretty fun. This is pretty fun.
Why does everybody say it's so hard? Look at this. It's pretty easy.
Well, it's a state mandated test. It is pitifully easy. So I decided, well, that was great. And so you mentioned that the first time you and I and Rob met was at a Girl and a Gun conference in Texas many years ago. Well, at the very first Girl and a Gun conference, I don't know, almost 10 years ago or something maybe?
Something, yeah.
There was a banquet one evening, and there was a prize table, and they would give out guns, and I would clap and go, okay, that's nice. Or, they've got a prize table. And somebody said, now we're going to open up this prize table. So if we call your number, these are some things that we have on the table. One of them is a gift certificate to any class taught by Massad Ayoob anywhere in the country. And I went, whoa. Because my father has been an outdoorsman and a hunter, and he's 80 years old and still shoots sporting clays every week. My dad had given me gun magazines over the years to read, so I knew who Massad Ayoob was. And so they called my number. I was the first number that they called for the prize table. And so I said, I would like the gift certificate to the Massad Ayoob class. And so I figured out, okay, this is the first real training that I've had outside from a license to carry class and, an NRA instructor class. This is like real training now. So I went to the class in Arkansas, and a friend of mine from Del Rio went with me. And Maz and I hit it off great.
Okay,
And
well,
then
why
I
don't you
got into,
stop right there? Why don't you tell our audience, because they may not be as familiar with Massad Ayoob as you and I are, and frankly, we want them to. If he were of the female persuasion, he would be on this show. But he doesn't meet the criteria, so we can talk about him. We just won't talk to him.
to him. Massad Ayoob is probably the world's leading authority on the use of deadly force for the private citizen.
Mm-hmm.
He is a retired law enforcement officer from Grantham, New Hampshire. He was a police prosecutor for many, many years. He is an expert witness in the use of deadly force cases. Um, Maz has seen it all, has done it all. He's awesome. I've taken every class that Maz offers, um, from shooting to hand combat stuff to non-shooting classes to his deadly force instructor certification program. So he writes for Handgun Magazine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. He writes for Backwoods Home magazine every day. Um,
He is on the board of directors of the Second Amendment Foundation.
he is on the
Right.
board
I
of
think
directors
I
for
think
the
he's
second.
actually
Yes,
the president of Second Amendment
he's
Foundation.
he's
I
something
think
like that.
he's a big to do. We'll just say he's a big to
He
do.
he he sits on the board of directors for the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network.
Hmm.
Um, he's just a brilliant mind, brilliant
Right.
mind. And so the Mag 40 class was the impetus for me to start training more and more. And
I I can absolutely see why. So let's go back. So Mag 40 is it's his numbering system. He's got a Mag 20, a Mag 40, a Mag 80. So go into that a little bit for folks.
okay, so he's he's got an instructor program. He's got a
Mm-hmm.
deadly force instructor program. So the Mag 40 is a 40-hour class in
Oh, uh-oh.
just I'm back.
Okay.
Is a 40-hour class in when to shoot, a major in when to shoot, and a minor in how to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
So you learn about use of deadly force for the private citizen, for the armed private citizen.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a Mag 20 range class that is the how to part, and that's a 20-hour class. You've got a 20-hour classroom part, which is all of the legal stuff, and only Maz teaches it. So
Okay.
that is one way that you can take a Mag 40, is take the 20 classroom and the 20 range separately. Or you can take a whole Mag 40 class. After that, he has what is called the Mag 80, which is another 40 hours. It builds upon the skills that you've learned during the Mag 40 class. In the Mag 80, you start learning some hand to hand disarming and handgun retention and handgun disarming skills. When you get to the Mag 120, you were starting off where you left at the Mag 80, so you're now working on 120 hours of training that you've had with Maz. You start learning the Kubaton in addition to your handgun retention and disarming. In the Mag 120, you learn to train like Maz and his friends train. Um, I took that class in Live Oak, Florida, one year in December, and that was just one of the most fun classes I have ever taken. You learn to shoot from a moving vehicle. You shoot submachine guns. You shoot handguns at sniper distances. Then there's the 180. And the 180 is where you get to be certified in handgun retention, handgun disarming instructor, Kubaton instructor. You shoot all these different qualifications with your handgun and your long gun. You teach a police department or a National Guard unit on Kubaton, and it is 7 hours. And the class, when I took the 180, he hadn't taught it in 14 years. Oh, there's a tissue lab that you get to do in the MAG 180 where you shoot a pig at point blank range in the head. And then they dissect the head, and so you see what the different kinds of carrying ammo do
got it.
to tissue.
Got it. Okay.
So, so I have been a MAG 20 range instructor with MAS for, I don't know, 8 or 10 years. It's very high honor to teach for him. So
there's that. So I took the MAG 40 in South Dakota, and so you came from Texas to South Dakota. I came from Ohio to South Dakota. So you came to help teach it. I came to take it. And one of the things that I saw was that the instructors have to shoot the qualification course before the students do, because it's like they're not going to cause you to do something that they can't do. And man, can they do it. So I was extremely impressed with all the instructors and what they do and how they do it. But that was pretty cool.
Yeah, y'all have been shooting for 4 days and have 500 rounds under your belt. I walk to the line and I shoot 60 rounds cold and hope I do a good job.
Yeah. So it's pretty impressive. So okay, so you had gotten a gun, took your concealed carry, then you won the Massad Ayoob class to take his MAG 40 class, and then traveled to take that. So that's pretty darned impressive. And then what happened? Then where did you go?
They invited me to take his instructor class.
Right there, from that.
Yeah. So I arrogantly said, okay. And they said, oh, by the way, you have to shoot a quadruple speed qualification. And I went, okay.
Yeah, sure. What's that mean? Right.
So I was the only female in a class of, I don't know, a dozen men or something. And it was 3 days, and David Malio is Maz's senior staff instructor who is in charge of the instructor certification program. And that was a lot of fun. And that's the only time I've ever been on the range in that class where not everybody was friendly to me. There were a couple of guys in the class who were kind of jerks. So I just smiled and outshot them. So
there you go.
And
that's a unique thing, because frankly, that's an experience, because most of the time everybody is nice when you go to the range.
Incredibly friendly, incredibly welcoming, and there was this one experience. And I'm like, well, I can either cry about it or I can suck it up and go beat the boys. So
there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm fortunate. You want to talk about Karl?
Sure.
And my relationship with Karl?
Okay, so Karl is Karl Rehn, and Karl Rehn. So first, the name of his shooting school, and go from there.
Okay, so I guess let's interject one little thing. So I came back from Massad Ayoob Group Instructor School, and then I went and got all these NRA instructor certifications, and my training counselor died. And I was like, what do I do now? So I got on the internet, and I'm like, well, there's this man whose name is Karl Rehn, and he's got a range about an hour from Austin. And So I emailed Karl out of the blue and said, "Hi, this is who I am. This is where I live. These are the classes that I've taken so far. And my training counselor has died, and I need some guidance and direction." And he emailed me back and said, "Why don't you come out? This is, the address for the range. Why don't you pack a lunch one day and come out?" And he calls it right hand riding. So it's like you're sitting in the passenger seat,
Mm-hmm.
and come out and let's see if you're a good fit for us. So I show up there that day, and Karl was not there that day. There was his assistant lead instructor who was there, and everything went. I thought it went pretty good, and I get an email from Karl. It says, "What shirt size do you wear?" And that was 7 or 8 years ago. So Karl Rehn is one of my mentors. He's got a private training company
Mm-hmm.
located an hour from Austin, an hour from College Station, called KR Training. And
Real
we
creative name
teach,
for Karl Rehn.
right?
Right. Yeah.
Karl Rehn, KR Training. Website www.krtraining.com. And so I've been fortunate enough to learn so very much on the job from Karl. I've taken private lessons from Karl before I've had to go take really tough classes.
Mm-hmm.
Karl has, I don't know, probably a dozen assistant instructors, and we teach everything from beginning handgun to advanced handgun, um, long gun. Karl is a force on force instructor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he has a very nice 88-acre place out in the country, and the neighbors shoot, and Karl shoots, and it's great. And I've learned a whole lot about how to safely run a class, how to safely run a line.
Mm-hmm.
Um, After working for Karl as assistant instructor for a couple of years, he said, Tom Gibbons. And I'm like, I don't know who Tom Gibbons is. And he's like, Range Master. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what this
I don't
is.
know
And
what
he's
that
like, well,
is.
you need to find out. And so I signed up for the last instructor class at what is called the Mothership, at the Range Master Mothership in Memphis. And this was probably 10 years ago.
Okay.
And so I drive to Memphis, and I'm like, well, this is now my second out of state trip for training. But everything was shot from concealment. And I I was like, how am I? And I knew that Tom Gibbons
Mm-hmm.
has like a 15 or 20% failure rate in his classes. And you just don't walk in and get a participation,
Right.
check off. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a written test and shooting qualifications over the whole weekend. And so I did that, and I was the only female that passed the class. There were 3 females in the class, and I was the only one who passed out of the 3 women.
Okay.
And then, because failure was not an option, how was I going to
No,
come home and tell Karl,
that I
your assistant
flunked. Right.
instructor?
Yeah.
Yes, that was not an option. Um, I have taken the Range Master Advanced Instructor class. I have taken the Range Master Instructor level class. I have taken Chuck Haggard's pepper spray instructor
Mm-hmm.
class. Uh, I don't know if there's a training. I'm knife. If there's a training class on self defense, I want
You've
to go
taken
take
it.
it.
You've taken it,
Well,
right? Or you want
or
to take
yeah,
it, or it's on
or
the
I want to
list,
go.
or you're working it. Okay, got it. I mean, I think that that's an amazing thing. Is that it is that I talk to some instructors, and they're like, well, I got my instructor certification, and that's kind of it. And it's like, no, 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 no. I think that every concealed carry holder, every person who's interested in self-defense should hone their skills and should continue to take training year after year after year, and that they should take training from different instructors because taking it from the same instructor, you will then repeat their bad habits, and you will never know that they are bad habits.
You're exactly right.
So,
You know, be, I kind of, I'm particular with who I want to go train with.
mhm,
I want to know, when is the last time you went and took a class as a student?
right.
You know, um, again, somebody who's got just an NRA certificate
That's a
for
good
handgun instruction.
start.
It's a good
It's
start,
a good
but it's
start.
not a good place. It's not a good place to stay. Um,
Exactly. Exactly.
and the more that you train with different qualified instructors, you take bits and pieces from, like, huh, that's a really good way to present that. Or, ooh, I don't think I care for that. And, you file
Hmm.
away in your Rolodex, of what works and what doesn't work. And,
Right.
um,
Yeah, because if you repeat something that you heard that you don't believe, then you're not believable as you repeat it.
mhm.
Hmm.
And,
Yeah.
something else that I feel obliged to state is, people overlook the importance of taking medical and first aid classes,
Mm.
um, stop the bleed classes. My good friend Caleb Causey, who lives up in the Dallas area, has a company called Lone Star Medics. If you're going to carry a gun, you need to know what happens when your blood comes out. You know,
Right. And what do you
um,
do and how do you stop it, and what wounds do you pack and what wounds do
yep,
you tourniquet, and all that.
that's people like to go to the classes where you go bang bang bang, and don't want to go to the classes where you learn how to put tourniquets on, but
Hmm.
that's really really important.
It
And
it really is. We took a mini version at one of the faster classes, and the interesting thing is they keep track of. They ask their students that if you ever have cause to use this, then we need to know. We want to know. And so they keep track of how many of their students save someone's life with the medical portion and what was the incident. And there are many stories of somebody who cut a major artery and were saved by someone, and it had nothing to do with firearms, but it
that's right.
had everything to do with lives saved. And then when you look at the fact that in a lot of cases, being on scene and being able to provide medical attention. I mean, did you see the pictures of the New York subway and the people that were providing medical attention to the people who were hurt and wounded? And that was the first
Hmm.
thing that I thought of is, look at that. Look at how many people had something, either had knowledge or had gear or had something that they could turn into gear.
Kind of a segue, my good friend Paul Martin talks about, in the preparedness side of things, talks about the importance of being a good citizen.
Hmm.
And what are some criteria that we could think about that would constitute being a good citizen? Voting is something that is helpful. First aid knowledge is
Hmm.
something that's very important. CPR, and how to use a defibrillator on
Hmm.
somebody. And that kind of, one day, when I heard Paul's lecture about this, I was like, you know, he's absolutely right. And the next week I went and signed up for a CPR refresher course.
Hmm.
You know, it's just something that doesn't take a lot of time to do, and that is important because it could save somebody's life.
It could.
Your own
Yeah.
family member, you don't know.
Well, in my place of employment, I have always been one of the first responders. And so the training, the first aid training and the CPR training came with the job. Now that I'm retiring, I'm going to have to go look for it.
It's okay. It's okay. It's out there. It's out there.
I'll be able to find it.
That's
Yeah.
one of the things that I am not certified in is stop the bleed or CPR. Uh, Maybe in some downtime or something. That's
You
something
don't
I
have
could add to my.
downtime.
Of course I don't.
You do not have downtime because as an assistant instructor, but you are in demand kind of across the country. I mean, the fact that you were just recently at TechCon, you came to South Dakota to do the RSO and run the line there. You travel across the country on demand.
I was halfway to gun sight to go shoot the revolver roundup when my father-in-law passed away, and we had to turn around and come back to Austin. But Karl sent out an email to his staff this afternoon and said, let me know your availability for the rest of the year. And I emailed him right back. I said, except for November when I'm going to gun sight to shoot the revolver roundup, I'm free. I'm open. Put me where you need me.
There you go.
So
I'm going to gun sight for in October, but it's not for revolvers.
Are you gonna go take the 250 or something?
Yeah. So I had taken the 250 before. I'm taking Robin Sandoval and Rob Campbell are both going, and we've got a couple other people. So starting everybody out there, and this time I'm probably taking a bigger gun. The last time I did the 250 in with my SIG P365. I won the challenge coin. I won the challenge coin. Right? That's all I need to say, right?
Little victories, I know.
They kept telling me that if I watered that gun, it would grow up to be a big gun.
Yeah, but I shoot the little gun really, really well, so.
Right. I mean, I'm sure I could shoot better with a big gun, but the little gun is the gun I carry, and I was like, if I'm gonna hone some skills, let me hone the skills on the gun that I have in my pocket.
You're not going to get any argument from me on that one, Amanda. I carried a Glock 43 for years, and the gun's about the size of my palm.
Yeah.
And you need to be proficient at what you carry.
Exactly.
And I've moved to a Glock 48, and I still like my 43, which is smaller than the 48. I like my 43 better.
Mm-hmm.
So, shoot what you're comfortable with.
Yeah. And have a gun that you can carry, will carry, and then train with it. That's really the thing. It doesn't do you any good to have a tiny gun if you can't hit anything, or to have a giant gun that you can hit everything with, yet it's
but
sitting
you're not
at home.
Carry.
Yeah, it's not where you need it to be. So you've got to figure out what works for you, how it all works, and then train with that.
Did you shoot the 365 at the 40 in June?
Yeah.
Well, you did really well with that.
So once again, my friends outshot me, but their guns were bigger. I'm like having a conversation saying, your barrel is twice the length of mine, which means your sights are twice the distance. So,
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Don't give them the satisfaction of letting them see you get crossways about that. Just, oh, that's nice.
No, I'm just like,
but
let's talk math. We're
smaller guns, yeah.
We're gonna talk math. And so, no, as long as I made it, I think I beat. Well, actually, I think I tied Charlie Cook, but Mass came and scored my target.
A full size gun.
And Mass came and scored my target, and I think he made a mistake. But since it's Mass, he doesn't make mistakes. So I took the point.
Hey.
So yeah. So later, I told Charlie, I was like, I think I outshot you because Mass said I did. There you go.
I've got the target to prove it. So who am I to? Yeah.
I'm good. So okay. So you train, you continue to train, you shoot, and yet you're on different places like podcasts. So you are a regular on the Polite Society podcast. How did you get
No,
involved there?
I wouldn't. I'm not a regular anymore. I'm a occasional panelist, shall we say?
An occasional. Okay.
An occasional panelist. How did that happen?
Yeah.
Paul Lathrop and I had been Facebook friends, and one day he puts this post up about, I need a woman on the podcast. Are there
Okay,
any
I was
women?
like, clarify
Are
that.
there any women? Are there any women in the industry who would be interested in being on the podcast?
Yeah.
And so I messaged him and said, yeah. And he went, well, and I said, I shoot guns. I like guns. I like to talk about guns. I like people who like to talk about guns and shoot guns. And so he said, okay, let's give it a shot. And I don't know how many years ago that was. But I like to talk about guns. I like to talk about defensive gun use stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Well, and when you're on that show, I mean, there's times when you're on it and I'm on it, and it's always interesting to get the trainer, the extreme trainer's point of view on things, you know, and so it just makes it a much more well-rounded show.
It's a different perspective that I bring to the table from, you know, the rest of the panelists, be it right or wrong. But doors are locked for your protection. So,
That is
and
a
if you
very
don't know
good,
what that means, you need to go listen to the podcast.
right. That is a very good point. We'll roll that out. It says that, you know, this door wasn't locked to keep you out. Well, it was locked to keep you out, but it's not locked to keep me safe.
It's for your
locked.
safety.
It's for you, Mr. Bad Guy, your safety, because you're not going to like what you find inside this door.
Probably
Right?
not.
Probably not. It's not gonna. It's, as Rob says, it's not gonna go so good for you. Right.
I unfortunately have a neighbor immediately behind me who I think is either schizophrenic or has PTSD, and he scares me. And I keep a big size of saber
Pepper spray.
red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The gel.
I'm looking on my patio table. No, not the gel. The spray.
Oh, the spray. Okay, got it.
The spray. In case, you know, my husband likes to walk around in his PT shorts from the army, and I'm like, Scott, go put on shorts with a gun. And he's like, and I'm like, at least let's leave pepper spray here in case weird dude, you know, hops over the fence and stuff.
Well, there's been multiple police interactions with your neighbor.
Yes, there have.
So that, I mean, the interesting part is that we don't get to pick our neighbors, really. I mean, they get picked for us, and the only thing we can do is unchoose them as neighbors by moving, if we're in a position to be able to do that. But otherwise, you get what you're given.
You get,
and that's it.
And Austin is one of the most expensive housing markets in the United States right now. I couldn't afford to move if I had to. It's insane what the median house in Austin costs north of $600,000.
That's crazy.
So, yeah. But yeah, crazy dude across the fence. Yeah, I can tell when he's gone because it's quiet and normal. And then Scott walks in the other morning. My husband works at nights, and he walks in the morning and he says, Trace, crazy dude's back. And I'm like, how do you know? And he's like, he's shooting air horn. Just air horn, random air horn.
Yeah, so it puts you in a really bad position because you either have to plan on how you're going to defend yourself, You have to plan on how you're going to be in a different place than they are. So how do you avoid them? You know, the whole incident avoidance. It makes you, especially as a firearms instructor, it makes you think about all these things kind of in a completely different way, because your choice is that pepper spray, a less than lethal option for Crazy Dude as the first line of defense. Yeah.
And so, I've got pepper spray on the back patio. I've got this palm pepper spray that I just pulled out of my pocket. I have the other pepper spray, the big canister like I have on my pad. I may have an obsession with pepper spray.
You just
Um,
might.
but, it's a gun is not always the answer.
No. And sometimes
It
the
might
gun
be.
is the tool, the last tool, not the first tool.
Uh, Chuck Haggard is where I've trained with pepper spray.
Hmm.
Chuck Haggard with Agile Training, and and he says pepper spray is somewhere between a harsh word and a gun, and he's pretty accurate.
Hmm.
And
Right.
y'all need to go train with Chuck if you haven't ever trained with Chuck Haggard. Not
Okay.
only is he handsome, the man knows what he's talking about with pepper spray and with little guns and everything. Chuck is awesome.
So where is he? Where's he located?
He's in Topeka, Kansas, but he travels all across the United States.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. He's not someone that I've run into. And that's one of the funny things about this industry, is that I like to think that the industry is somewhat like the Olympic rings. You know, the green ring and the red ring, they might not touch each other and they may not interact with each other, but they both interact with the blue ring, right? And so the red ring and the blue ring know each other, but the red
You're
ring and
you're
the green
exactly
ring don't.
right. That's a great analogy. It truly is a very good analogy. And it's like, at the beginning before I came on, you said, well, you're in Ohio and I'm in Texas, and we're thousands of miles apart, but we know people that, we
Yeah.
overlap in different circles.
Yeah, and
So
there is that, because people are like, how do you not know so and so? Well, I know you because you're in the blue ring and I'm in the red ring. You know somebody in the green ring, right? But and it's like, but I don't know the green ring. And so it's really kind of interesting how that is. And so the goal to try to cross over those rings, because we're all in the Second Amendment world in some way, in the training, in the in the advocacy, in the training, in the politics of bills and laws and things. Just all of that kind of comes together. And
and if there's somebody that I don't know that I need to know, I'll ask around and say, "Hey, does anybody know so and so?" And I've made introductions for people. You know, someone's emailed me and said, "Hey, Tracy, blah 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 blah," and I'm like, "Hang on, let me,
yeah, see,
let me introduce y'all together."
yeah,
So
because see, I have a personal policy that says if I have somebody's cell phone number, I won't share it, but I will gladly say, let me introduce you, and I will give them your information and allow them to contact you. That way, if they want to call on their desk phone, if they want to block the
that's right.
number and call you, if they want to email, whatever, but I'm not giving out their information.
I tend to do Facebook message,
Hmm.
and I'll do a little group message where I'll say, so and so,
Hmm.
you know, allow this to facilitate as an introduction between the two of y'all.
Yeah.
Y'all take it from
Ta-da!
here.
Yeah.
Or I will email somebody and carbon copy them on it.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't give out phone numbers. No way.
Yeah, it's just a thing with me, because I'm like, no, you gave it to me, and I hate that people that I don't know end up with the number, and then they're just, some of them are great, and then now and then you get a pest, Right? I don't want that.
that has your phone number that you
Right.
have to block because they don't know when enough is enough,
Hmm.
or they can't read the social
The
uh
social
the social
cues of the,
yes,
yeah,
not interested. Yeah, take a hike.
all that. Right.
I mean,
Yes.
it's fortunate that we have alternatives to those things.
I know it's
So
so funny that we're so connected, yet I'm not sure how, there's so much technology, there's the ability to be so connected, yet maybe not. So,
yeah,
what's,
I'm not somebody. What?
no, okay. What's
No,
the
ask me a
next
question.
thing? What's the next thing for you? What training are you taking? Where are you going? What are you doing? What's next on the Tracy Becker list of I gotta knows?
I'm gonna teach a Mag 20 range at KR Training in October,
Hmm.
the 5th and 6th, I believe, a Thursday and Friday, because Maz will be there the 7th and 8th teaching the classroom part. So I'll be doing that. I will be going to the Revolver Roundup. I'm probably going to be the only girl shooting the Revolver Roundup, but I don't care. I like antiquated weapons technology, so I'm going to go take my Model 66s and go into the desert and go shoot them with all the boys. Uh, Next month, I am an assistant instructor at KR Training. I don't know even what weekend it is. We're Basic Pistol 1 and Basic Pistol 2.
Hmm.
So that's all I have for now
That's all I got
that
for
I can,
now. That's a
yeah,
pretty
that I
full
can think
schedule. Are you going
of.
to be at NRA? Are you going to make the annual meeting in Houston?
When is it? Write it
Memorial Day
down.
weekend.
Oh, that's the last weekend in May.
Yeah. Yep. It's
Maybe.
it's coming to Houston. It's not too far away from where you are.
No,
I
I have been there when it was in Houston before.
Yeah. I, on the other hand, am driving 1,300 miles, but maybe I'll get to see some sunshine on my way.
Yeah, Houston's not my favorite place. If I go to Houston, usually it's for concerts that don't come to Austin.
Mm.
But uh, let me say I'll think about it.
I'm just looking at the fact that
Think
there's
about
supposed
getting
to be
registered because Scott.
80,000 gun people all in one place. What's not to love about that?
Yeah,
I know.
it's so cool. I know. Yeah, Scott could stay home and take care of the dogs, and I could come or something one night. Is it at the same place down there across the street from the the Toyota Arena, the Toyota Center,
Uh,
whatever it is?
I don't know.
It's it's
Yeah,
it's got to be at the
something.
same
Yeah, it's
place.
the giant convention center.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Huh.
Yeah,
Maybe.
it's going to be amazing. I mean, it's been 3 years since we've had an NRA annual meeting because Nashville was canceled, Houston was canceled, Houston was delayed, Houston was canceled, Houston was rescheduled, and this is it. And Louisville got jettisoned because it was supposed to be in Louisville this year, and then they bumped Louisville for Houston.
I don't know, but if I can't make NRA, I'm going to try and make GRPC
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be there for
because
that
that's
too.
going to be in Dallas, right? Yes, that's
Dallas is Gun Rights
Dallas.
Policy Conference, and that
Yeah,
is the last week of
September.
September, the first week of October. That weekend, the September October weekend. So, folks, whoever's watching this, if you have never been to a gun rights policy conference and you are a gun person, it is an amazing, amazing thing. It's about 1,200 attendees, and they are the movers and shakers in the Second Amendment world. And so you'll get to sit and have lunch with A.W.R. Hawkins or Dr. John Lott or Sidney Powell or Alan Gottlieb. I mean, you look around and it's the greats from
It's the who's who.
everywhere. It's just, yeah, and they are there and they're telling you what they're doing and how they're doing it to make a difference in the Second Amendment world.
And they're really nice people. Everybody, I've only been to GRPC once, and it was such a great experience.
Which one did you go to?
Dallas.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Me, Rob, Gary, Rachel,
Mm-hmm.
Susan, Paul,
Everybody
Aaron,
lined up on
John.
that
Yeah,
doing the Polite Society podcast radio row, if you will. So,
right.
yeah, I remember the first time that I joined Polite Society podcast was, I think, Tampa, and they were like, here, you can sit down with us. And Rachel was there, and John was there, and Rob was there, and Paul was there. And they're talking, and as they ask a question, I'm looking, I'm like, okay, how does anybody know when they're talking? Right? Because they're all just there, right? Is there like a secret code? How do you pay attention so you're not stomping on each other? And then I finally learned that while they were there, I mean, when they're doing the show, they're actually adding notes so that you know who's doing what. But when they're there, they kind of lean forward, and the guy who leans forward is the guy who gets to speak. So,
That's the mic, right?
so you're watching the whole row of people, and they're kind of like a player piano where the keys are just moving on their own, right? It was pretty funny.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So I am going to do the Conceal Carry fashion show at the NRA.
Awesome.
So I'm pretty excited about that. We're lining up vendors and people, and I'm getting that put together. So it should be an amazing thing.
Is John Eding going to be a model for you again?
I haven't talked to him yet, but if I can get him to, he's
hit him up. I bet you he would.
He's so fun. So
I saw him a couple of weeks ago in Dallas.
Did you?
I love that man. Yeah,
yeah.
He's just so much fun.
Dr. John Edine is Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership is his shtick, and it's he's talking about doctors who are pro-gun. And they have a group that will connect you to other doctors so that your doctor could be pro-gun, as opposed to some of these where they say, do you have a gun in your house? And if my doctor, if I say no, he'd be like, why not? Yeah, what's wrong with you? Right?
Right.
Right, exactly. So there was a question I was going to ask you, Tracy, and now it's kind of Oh, I know. You were just at TACCon. So why don't you tell folks about TACCon and what that is? I mean, everybody hears about it, and it sells out so darn fast that if you don't, as soon as it is available, if you don't sign up, there is no thinking about it. You know, there is no try, it's only do. Is that how Baby Yoda says it? Something like that.
Right. Tickets went on sale Monday, I think, and I believe yesterday there were 15 slots left.
Yeah.
And it's 300 or 400 of your best friends in the training and self-defense world. And it's akin to a girl and a gun conference, except that, you know, this is self-defense. It's, you know, co-ed. The leading instructors from across the country present. It's 3 days. You can take lecture classes. You can take live fire classes. People like Tom Gibbons from Rangemaster puts it on every year. Massad Ayoob is there every year. John Farnham is there every year. Live fire class, Scott Jedlinski from Modern Samurai Project, Tim Herron, Gabe White, Apache Solutions Training, Palisades Training Group. I mean, it's literally the who's who of self-defense instructors. They have ShivWorks does force-on-force things. There are knife classes. There are med classes. There are lectures on how to survive the zombie apocalypse.
So how's the structure? So everybody's there. Do you sign up in advance for the classes, or is it a free-for-all when you get there?
For the lectures, or it's a free-for-all. They have big white tents, like, commercial tents with probably a couple hundred folding chairs in there. And so you've got probably 3 lectures going on simultaneously and probably 6 or 8 blocks of live fire. And, when Tom Gibbons sends out the email, he'll say, send me your 3 or 4 top choices for live fire, and you'll probably get a couple of them. And so they have a side match every year that's called the Polite Society match. And I think 175 people shot it last year. And I mean, it's good fun. You see your friends from all across the country that you only get to interact with on Facebook. So, but you snooze, you lose. I've never seen something that sells out so fast.
I know. I've been looking at it, and I've never been able to do it because that pesky job thing. And
well, but next year,
I won't have the pesky job.
Next year,
I know.
I can let you know when it goes on sale.
I know. It's so
and it'll be in Dallas this year, and maybe I think Dallas next year.
Okay. Well, there's still a couple openings. I'm looking. I'm thinking. I'm like.
I'll be there. I'll be there the whole time.
Well,
Scott's not going to go. I am going. We can pal around if you want to.
Okay. Well, let me look at that. I've got to decide like 15 slots ago.
I've already made my hotel reservations. I have a room with 2 queen beds. So just putting that out there. All you have to do is sign up. And,
potential roomie. Right? Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
That's what I'm telling you. I can introduce you to a bunch of people that you might not know.
I'm telling you, firearms training every year, just trying to hone those skills, keep those up. It's just a good thing to do. And
nobody's coming to save you. I mean,
no, it's you. It is you. You have to save yourself, and you have to be prepared and have. They're like, well, why does training cost so much? And why does a gun cost so much? And why does ammo cost so much? Let me tell you, when you have cause to use it, you would gladly pay 10 times as much for whatever you have to make sure you have it. And you would wish you had hundreds of hours of training, not the hours of training you've got.
That's it.
It really is. So what do you want to leave our guests with, our listeners to? What last little message does Tracy Becker, firearms trainer extraordinaire, want to impart as amazing advice?
You are worth defending. Go get the training to learn how to defend yourself. Right. You are worth it.
You are worth it. And when you look at it, what would happen to your family if you weren't there? So even if you're not willing to do it for you,
do it for them.
Think about it and do it for them. And that is really, really good advice, Tracy. I really, really appreciate it. So folks, tune in this Friday, next Friday, every Friday for Women for Gun Rights. The DC Project is an amazing group of women who wants to showcase amazing women and what they do within the Second Amendment world. Whether they're part of the DC Project or whether they're part of the Second Amendment world, we are all sisters in this big, big fight. So, Tracy Becker, thank you so much for joining this show. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Take care, Amanda.
Take care. Till next Friday, bye. Guys.
This is Women for Gun Rights with your host, Amanda Suffecool, part of the DC Project.